versus Mardu vehicles. This could be a quick one. Let's head down for round number 6. Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Pittsburgh. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Cheon. And we're ready for round 6 action where we have Jake Dietrich playing black-red aggro. And in fact, off to the races here nice and quick with an Inventor's Apprentice against Tiago Saporito from Brazil. And he's playing Mardu vehicles. He's got a really nice one drop here too. This one could go quite quickly, couldn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's just off to the races here.
Boom, boom. Bomat Courier is going to get in there as well. Trades offered by Jake in the form of Bomat Courier. And you know what? Tiago's going to take him up on it. He says, let's not let that thing get completely out of hand. I'll trade my 1 drop for your 1 drop. Take a couple of damage.
Yeah, it also gets an artifact off the table, meaning that the Inventor's Apprentice is now only a 1/2. He's hoping it kind of stays that way.
Heart of Kirin is not going to do much on defense. Let's see if Jake can add an artifact to the board. No, but if he can, things could get out of hand. That's a Weldfast Engineer.
Yeah. Kind of the newest addition to the black-red aggro deck that existed in the previous standard format.
Good card.
Yeah.
He's actually got another one in his hand as well. He just does need the artifact. DePaula. All right, well, we've got gold 3 drops abound.
Yeah, so Tiago choosing to play a bit more of a defensive game here, giving himself the opportunity to crew the Heart of Kirin on defense instead of attacking. I think you just kind of have to shift game plans, especially when you're on the draw.
Man, if Jake ever finds an artifact creature that can attack,
yeah.
Well, you know what this means. Gideon for Tiago. When
Nice
they tap 4 lands, you know what's coming. He's going to make a Knight Ally, and I'm assuming just pass the turn again. He's going to cash in one of his loyalty to get in for 4 damage, it looks like, with the Heart of Kirin.
Right, yeah, that interaction is excellent. Tiago with a fairly ideal draw here, just 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
Basically all your best spells.
Yep. Yeah, the one you would pick for each thing.
Yeah.
He's going to take 5 damage, drop down to 15, and then pass the turn back to Jake.
Yeah, at this point, Tiago's done a pretty good job of mucking up the ground. Drawing something like a Bomat Courier won't even do a whole lot on this board.
Just trade off for a Knight.
Right.
Wow. Man, getting that artifact off the battlefield for Tiago way back on turn 2 has proven super strong here.
Yeah, sometimes you just have the read. Just staring at Jake, he's just like, no, you just got 1 artifact. I know it.
Definitely don't have another artifact block. Yeah, this is looking pretty good for Tiago here. Looks like he's going to, he's jamming.
Yeah.
Now, he's not going to use any, he's not going to attack with the Heart of Kirin this turn.
Yeah, so because Jake left up 3 mana, I think Tiago is reading Jake for having Unlicensed Disintegration in his hand, and that is exactly what Jake has in his hand. So he's choosing to play around it to the best of his ability. And
just not expose his Heart of Kirin to the removal spell.
Right, whereas Gideon is indestructible, so it just can't die to any of the removal spells Jake can have.
All right, a colorless creature.
It's
that's
almost an artifact.
Not an artifact, yeah. Forerunner of Slaughter. This card really never found a great home in Standard, but it does seem to be a card that people like to play in these type of decks. Just a good 2-drop. When you're building these aggro decks, you really do need to find cards that fit the slots that you need to fill. That's why you see some kind of cards that are like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. This is
yeah, exactly. In the black-red deck, you don't have access to Veteran Motors, for example, to kind of fill that void in the 2-drop slot. And you do need a 3-power creature to crew the Heart of Kirin. So Forerunner of Slaughter was just kind of the natural inclusion. Yeah. Not the most powerful card relative to a lot of other things you can do, but again, if you're just playing straight 2 colors, this is what you have.
Meanwhile, Jake has committed to the plan of leaving those 3 mana available. And this time, though, Tiago is getting in.
Right. And again, just fully abusing the power of the interaction between Heart of Kirin and Gideon. Chose to plus the Gideon and then also crew the Heart of Kirin getting in for
God.
12 right now.
For no mana spent, too. He just gets to leave up anything he's got in his hand.
Yeah.
Weldfast Engineer is going to trade, and it looks like one of the Inventor's Apprentices is going to jump in front of Gideon.
Yeah.
And that does mean that Jake only falls to 10.
Right.
But still, he's just slowly falling further and further behind.
Exactly. The thing with losing the Scrap Heap Scrounger there is because the Toolcraft Exemplar traded earlier, he just gets it back.
Exactly. So he's going to go Thraben Inspector, Clue, Crack Clue, and then if he has something he can do that's more powerful than getting back the Scrap Heap Scrounger, he will. If he doesn't, then he'll just get back the Scrounger.
Yeah. Another thing to note is that turn, all of a sudden, Tiago decided to attack with the Heart of Kirin. It's because he drew a second copy in his hand.
Ah, smart.
Yeah.
Jake decided to take damage there, but it does mean that he's not facing a Heart of Kirin at least immediately.
Right. Just a Gideon, a bunch of creatures, and a Scrap Heap Scrounger.
Mm-hmm. But he's down to 5.
Yeah.
And he's scooping him up.
Well, we predicted a fast game.
And
that's exactly what happened.
Delivered for sure. Yeah, it looked like it was going to be a nice close fight early, but some smart turns of play there by Tiago Saporito, not attacking in the early stages and then playing around the removal spell from his opponent really paid off for him.
Yeah, trading off with the artifact
that too,
was
yeah.
just huge.
And that is kind of what we expect from Tiago at this point. He's really proven himself to be a top-level Magic player.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, one of the top players in South America and also just the world at this point, right? Just back-to-back platinum.
Yep. If you're platinum 2 years in a row, I don't care where you're from or who you are, you're one of the best. Period.
And it's also just harder to pick up pro points, especially if you're from South America. You have to make these arduous trips to North America
seriously
to pick up the points, and it's expensive.
I mean, they fly 20 hours and pay a bunch of money to get here. It's tough. It's tough.
It's a crazy level of dedication.
It really is. Yeah, Tiago really does a lot of work on Magic Online as well. You may know him as Belovo if you ever play against somebody named Belovo. Well, that's not the one to start binge watching Netflix while you're playing. You're going to want to pause it and pay attention because you're playing against Tiago Saporito.
You're definitely going to need to focus.
Yeah, he's. You can see he's also wearing his jersey. He plays for Team Dex Army, and at the Pro Tour level. That's for the teams at the PT. The teams here, they'll often test together, have travel together or whatever, but they don't apply like they do at the PT.
Yeah, they had a very impressive showing at the last Pro Tour, putting 2 members of that team in the finals.
Yeah, 2. Like one of them was from Dex Third, one of them was from Dex Army, but they all tested together roughly, exchanged information, and they ended up meeting in the finals. It's like, wow, you guys did it right.
Yeah, I know
something went well.
Yeah, we had one member of Fire and Ice as well in the top 8, so we're kind of hoping for that to happen, and we just quickly got dismantled, and instead it was just a Dex Army final. So I think the team thing was just made the matchups just a lot more interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a big fan of kind of the new structure.
Players are, of course, consulting their sideboards. Do we have their boards over there, Paul?
We do not. We do not currently.
Are you sure? They should be in that pile there. There's Tiago.
There we go.
Let's see what we got. I'll look at Tiago's and see what he's working with in the sideboard. He's got a couple of Chandras, a couple of Fatal Pushes, a Fumigate, a Linvala the Preserver, 2 Release the Gremlins. I bet you we'll see those. Or maybe not. Yeah, I guess we probably should see those. An additional Shambling Van, a pair of Shocks. Ooh, 2 Sky Sovereigns. Sky Whaler Shot and 1 Thalia. So he's got all 2 or 1 ofs. So kind of spread out there in his sideboard. Yeah. All right,
I imagine those Release the Gremlins are going to be coming in.
Yeah, I'd think so too.
They have to be great there.
Let's take a look at Dan Ward and Ben Friedman, see how these 2 gentlemen are proceeding. Dan Ward on Abzan Control.
Yeah.
Interesting. We love doing deck techs with Dan because he always brings spicy stuff and he loves talking about his decks. He knows his decks inside and out and really knows what the important pieces are, so makes for a great deck tech.
Yeah, I took a look at his list earlier and he was kind of laying out his deck and he had the green and he has forest in his deck, so technically it's Abzan Control, but the only reason why the green is in the deck is for 3 copies of Painful Truths
What?
that he's playing. Yeah.
He's not even playing green cards?
He's not playing green cards.
That's funny.
The thing is, with the loss of Read the Bones, you need something to kind of replace that, and he just said he wasn't happy enough with the other 3-mana draw 2 spells that were in the format, so he opted to just play a couple Blooming Marshes and a Forest with 4 Evolving Wilds for the Painful Truths.
Interesting.
You got to get your value.
I guess so.
Yeah. And Ben Friedman on just kind of a more traditional version of the Black-Green Constrictor deck, using the energy, but he does have a light splash of red for Harness Lightning.
Why are those Attune with Ethers just floating out there?
I guess that's his graveyard.
Okay. Maybe he just likes the artwork.
Yeah.
They do look nice. All right, well, Gifted Etherborn's going to hit the red zone here and produce a little 4-point life swing in Dan Ward's favor. But we see Lifecrafter's Bestiary here from Ben Friedman. Not a card that you see a ton of in Standard, at least as of now. But boy, is that card powerful.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely very powerful, especially in the control matchup. I do like the fact that he played that turn 3 over a creature that he could have played, because it just gives all your creatures a little extra value after you play it.
A little extra value. Dude.
A lot of extra value.
Drawing cards, Paul. I know how much this means to you. Let's head back to our main match. They're underway, and if we miss much, it could be over.
I'm trying
These
to
matches
contain my
get
excitement
quickly.
here.
Yeah. Hey, you just got to be you, buddy.
Right.
All right, so here's a pair of Heart of Kiran's facing each other down, but Jake, being on the play this time, is the first one to get to crew it up and jam. He's going to play P and Alar to do so. Ooh, but Tiago, I guess he just has to have Fatal Push here, right?
Yeah, it has
There's
to
no
be.
way he does this unless he has it. Let's see if Jake respects it. He's going to go ahead and play Forerunner of Slaughter and give it haste. And he is going to crew the Heart of Kiran, but this is
the disrespectful attack.
Dead, yes. Yeah, that play is one that we saw at the Pro Tour a lot. You have to expect that.
Right.
Now, I wonder what would happen, though, if Jake just said, give this haste attack with all 3 of these things, rather than the heart. I mean, he's only giving up a damage by doing so.
Yeah.
And it makes it harder for Tiago to interrupt. I mean, he still gets to kill something. He kills the Forerunner, but...
Yeah, it gets to protect the Heart of Kiran.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's pretty likely that Tiago will just be able to keep up that black often. Oh, I guess he would have used it on the 3-2 there. So he still would have...
Yeah, he would have killed the Forerunner.
Yeah, he still would have taken 3 damage, but obviously killing the Heart of Kiran is just way more impactful here.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when Tiago keeps a hand on the draw of turn 2 Heart of Kiran into turn 3 Caravan, you have to expect him to actually have the Fatal Push there. Like, he's just not going to keep that hand.
Like actual every time, right? Yeah.
Unless he was on a mulligan and we missed that.
Right. Okay, well, here's Jake rebuilding his board. He's still got a board state here, but Tiago has really started to affect his board as well, with DePaula Pilot Exemplar as well as Thraben Inspector.
Ooh, Jake's got to release the gremlins in his hand.
Ooh. Well, if I don't get my Heart of Kiran, you don't get your Heart of Kiran. So gremlins have been released. I like that. Man, if he had another mana, he could have done the clue too.
Yeah. I think that's why
or the Cultivator's Caravan, even better.
Right. I think that's why there was a short pause. He doesn't have the 5th land. I think if he did, he probably would have waited an extra turn, but he didn't want to get too greedy there.
BDM's getting cute.
What is he doing?
He put Octavia Orangutan up instead of Manic Vandal. What is he thinking? That's clearly a Manic Vandal, BDM.
They do a similar enough thing where I think there's added value in trying to
be fair, I do like Octavia Orangutan way better than Manic Vandal, so I approve of BDM's choice there. Release the orangutans, indeed.
Yeah.
All right, clue down. Go ahead.
So I'm actually not 100% sure if releasing the gremlins there was what you wanted to do. Mostly because it's going to be pretty hard for Jake to actually still attack through that Cultivator's Caravan.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it was better just to wait a turn because he's not really under a whole lot of pressure. But
okay, well, but he still didn't have the land to do, so he doesn't know when that's going to happen. Right. And also, I can tell you, Paul, I don't know if this changes it. He does have Unlicensed Disintegration in his hand.
Sure.
Does that, would you still rather just try to maximize, over the next few turns, or is it better than if you already have an answer for the Caravan to just try to apply pressure?
Yeah. That's a tough question. I guess for me, I just want to maximize my value a lot of the time.
Yeah, but that's just how you always are. Paul.
Right. Well, there was also
That's just
clue
how
on
you
the board.
roll, buddy. You're at the grocery store, like trying to get that last extra carrot on the thing.
Oh yeah. I've definitely have situations where like I could win the game or draw extra cards, and
you're like,
it's still tempting. It's still tempting.
Fine, I'll win, I guess. All right, but Weldfast Engineer added a bunch of extra damage via that Thopter. And it turns out that Tiago is just overwhelmed that game. And Jake Dietrich is going to even things up at 1 game apiece there. He really just kind of bum rushed him there.
Yeah. You kind of got to see the power of the Release the Gremlins there. It just, not only, Tiago spent a turn playing his threat, but not only does it get it off the board, you also just have that additional threat.
Yeah.
2-2 might not seem like a lot, but it's still free damage.
Yeah, and that is the upside to the play that Dietrich made, is that it gave him a more immediate advantage. Right. But there's a lot of times where Tiago would like play 2 creatures that next turn, and the gremlin doesn't really matter so much, and then he could kind of sputter out. And that's the times where your point would come up, where you're like, if you would have waited another turn for a land or a turn or 2 for the land and taken out 2 key threats with it, that could put you over the top in a way that Tiago really can't come back from. Now, in this case, he was able to apply enough pressure to make it work.
Right.
Ooh, cool. We get to pop back on, I'm going to air quotes, Obzon control. And it's black-white. Yeah.
For a second, I thought that Liliana was on 9, and I got really excited.
The old 9-sided dice?
Yeah. well, they're the updated 6-sided ones, right? That goes from 7 to 12 that we saw earlier.
You're right. Yeah. You're right. All right. Well, how about Sorin? Because, one of the things about Lifecrafter's Bestiary, good card generates you advantage by scrying and also drawing the extra card, but it's slow, right? It doesn't do a whole lot. You can play Planeswalkers that just give you advantage right away and keep giving it to you if they're left untouched. Yeah. And Sorin is a big game. Yeah,
that is the drawback for taking the turn off to play the Bestiary, is if Dan just keeps slamming down these Planeswalkers, Ben just doesn't have any pressure on the board to kind of attack the Planeswalkers. I don't know how many copies of Planeswalker removal he has, but really desperately needs to draw one soon. Okay, so there is a Ruinous Path in Ben Friedman's hand here. And it looked like Dan chose to use Sorin's -2 ability to kill the Servant of the Conduit. I just can't imagine Ben not just killing the Sorin here when given the opportunity. You just don't want Dan to get ahead on cards. Can he awaken?
Yep.
Nope.
He's just paying an extra.
Okay.
Got to get that card,
Yeah. Got to get that value.
A lot of Gaunties today, by the way.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of expected to play a ton of green-black mirrors, and that's kind of the card that just gives you a ton of value right off the bat.
All right, why don't we head back to our main match? Because, once again, it can be quite quick. And there's Shock to take down Toolcraft Exemplar.
Yep.
And he's back.
So no turn 2 Heart of Kirin this time.
Yeah, just a turn 2 1-drop to follow up the turn 1 1-drop there from Tiago. No artifact yet.
Yeah.
And there's a Forerunner of Slaughter for Jake, who's just going to pass the turn back. God, it's amazing when you look at these 2 cards next to each other, because Toolcraft Exemplar is so close to just being a Forerunner of Slaughter, but it's so much easier to cast.
Yeah. Tiago does have a very awkward hand here. He needs to find an artifact. It looks like he has a Veteran Motorist in hand, but no red sources.
Oh, no. No artifact means Toolcraft Exemplar stays tiny, and his Spire of Industry does not produce colored mana for him at the moment.
Tiago this time on the side of the deck that doesn't have the artifact, and of course immediately draws the artifact.
Yeah, found it.
There it is.
That turns on everything here for him. Jake taking it.
Yeah.
Well, he could have traded. Yeah, there's that Veteran Motorist. Wow, that was a huge draw for him, hitting that Thraben Inspector.
He is playing a black-red aggro deck. You can't be aggro by blocking. You must always attack.
Well, that is true what you said.
It looks like Jake once again does not have an artifact for the Inventor's Apprentice. Looks like a well-fast engineer and an unlicensed disintegration. The no attacks, no blocks. And there is the Gideon. This is very reminiscent of the first game, where basically Jake just played a bunch of creatures, but they don't really work if he doesn't have an artifact in play.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't really have anything to kind of match a Gideon that's on the board right now.
Yeah, his lands don't match, and he can't match the Gideon.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's a coincidence. But here's Pia Nalar. All right.
Okay, so he
can he start pressuring Gideon with the Thopter here?
Yeah, so he can give it haste, pump it up. Unfortunately, he's 1 mana short of actually being able to kill the Gideon this turn.
Oh.
But he can at least get it down to 1 here.
Double block the ground guy.
Yeah. Let's kill off the Knight ally token here.
Mm-hmm. Reasonable trade. And Gideon's going to fall down to 1 loyalty, but that's so far away from 0.
I'm sure
Jake has unlicensed disintegration in his hand, though.
Yeah, so that Gideon is not going to be on the board for too much longer. Unless Tiago just kills off the Thopter and just, again, has the read that he's just never going to draw another artifact again. Wow.
Tiago getting in there.
I guess it's just going to be an even trade no matter what here, so don't exactly know what he's working with in hand.
Sure.
All right.
Trade off Pia Nalar for your 1-drop Toolcraft Exemplar. Take 3 damage. Make an ally. What else? Crack a clue. Go.
All right.
Okay. Jake looks to be in a pretty good position here, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Unlicensed disintegration in hand as well.
He's basically just kind of hoping Tiago doesn't have a fatal push, but even if he does, the disintegration will get rid of the Gideon.
That's right. So he basically gets to kill Gideon and Friend with 1 unlicensed disintegration, leaving Tiago with just the lonely Thraben Inspector back on blocks.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to trigger this thing, target this thing, attack, chump block here, and he's still going to take 6. So
yeah,
things looking good for Jake. He's down to nothing, though. He's got a land in hand.
Right. It doesn't look like Tiago has any removal, and that Spire of Industries, again, just doesn't tap for red mana anymore because he cracked the clue.
Unreal.
Yeah.
He just passed the turn back.
What does he have? Fumigate?
Oh, he could. Wow, that would be interesting.
Oh.
Nice draw. Forerunner of Slaughter off the top for Jake. Trigger, target this thing, attack with everybody. Trade these off, but that's a 9 damage hit there. Yeah. And Tiago Saporito is desperate.
Oh, he's slower.
Look at it. You know he has Fumigate now. He has to. Okay.
Okay.
Does that keep him alive? No. He needs something off of this. Oh, one card I saw that he does have in his hand, in case it wasn't Fumigate, he's got Sky Sovereign in his hand.
Okay, yeah, that is
and Fumigate. Is that Fumigate right there?
I believe so.
Oh, man. It was a land.
Okay.
So now all he has to do is survive this turn.
Yeah, he'll just go
How
down
hard
to 2.
could that be?
Double chump.
And he's going to, although it was still a good draw there from Jake. Because Heart of Kirin's going to dodge the Fumigate thing.
Oh, no, he can just give it
haste. Game.
Yeah, that should be the game.
Well, I did say it was a good draw. It wasn't for the right reasons, though. And that'll do it right there. Jake Dietrich with black-red aggro puts a thumping on Tiago Saporito. Says, hey, man, how was the flight? Welcome to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, unlicensed disintegration.
Woo.
A heck of a card.
Is it the best card in Standard, Paul?
I actually think it is. Like
Really?
in an aggressive deck, it is just unreal what that card does. It helps you deal with planeswalkers, and it goes in the perfect deck too.
Wow, that's gross. Best card in Standard, maybe. What do you guys think at home? I'm curious. What's the best card in Standard right now? Is it Whiny Constrictor?
It could be Heart of Kirin.
Is it Heart of Kirin? Is it Unlicensed Disintegration?
Some people suggested Scrap Heap Scrounger.
Scrounger?
Yeah,
for sure. I think it should be on the list. Also, old favorites like Gideon still, do a lot of work.
Yeah. A lot of powerful cards in the current Standard format.
Yeah. Well, somebody said Emrakul. Got bad news for you.
There was also
Marsh Hulk. Good answer. Definitely overpowered.
It's got lots of power. I will give it that much.
That's all I said. This one looks like it's gone back into Ben Friedman's direction, at least on the ground. I don't know how much clock Dan Ward can buy with that Archangel Avacyn in the air, but if Ben looks like he's in a good place to race with the Lifelinker down on the ground and a Verger's Gear Hulk.
Yeah, it looks like that Lifecrafter's Bestiary has done a ton of work. And he also drew the combo, which I was kind of hoping he would draw at some point in the game. He's got the Greenbelt Rampager plus the Lifecrafter's Bestiary. If you just pay 2 green mana, you get to basically just draw a card. So Ben is down to 6 life. He can choose to gain some amount of life this turn with the Gifted Aetherborn, but Dan Ward does have a 2/3 Death Toucher as well to block. So it would only be a one-time thing unless he has the removal spell for the Gifted Aetherborn this turn.
Are you seeing 2 emblems?
I do see 2 emblems.
Is that what that means?
I think that might be a
find
double.
another one,
Yeah,
so
okay.
it's 2 emblems somehow? I see a lot of Gideons in the graveyard.
Okay, yeah.
Huh.
That is a double emblem, actually.
This is Obnixilis.
He cast it like it was a removal spell.
What did he point it at?
Okay.
I mean, you still get to keep your Obnixilis, Ben.
Yeah.
There's more to. He has more to say.
It's not just a 5-mana Daring Demolition.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now that Ben basically got rid of the only threat on the board, he is incredibly far ahead at this point. Choosing to be aggressive, and he can actually attack with that Verder's Gear Hulk. If Dan Ward even chooses to put the Gifted Aetherborn in front of it, he can still just pump up the Walking Ballista and finish it off. Right. So Ben's basically giving Dan the opportunity to kind of trade 4 or 5 Gifted Aetherborns. Ben just wants to have that off the board because then he can start making better attacks with his other creatures. Like he has no interest in attacking with the 6/7 Gonti, at least until he gets rid of that Death Touch creature.
Gaining a bunch of life is nice for Ben here, too.
Yeah.
Having fallen down to 6, but still able to take advantage of that Lifecrafter's Bestiary and just a better board state here at this point. Here's another Walking Ballista as well. And, I mean, if I'm looking at it from Ben's perspective, I'm thinking, like, I'd love to have any life cushion I can have, because the longer this game goes, it just has to benefit him. That Bestiary just does work.
Oh, yeah. He gets a scry every turn. He gets to draw a card. The only thing I would try to be a little mindful of is the fact that Dan Ward could very easily have something like Fumigate that he could draw. So just trying to be a little careful with trying not to overextend onto the board.
So this is an attack for 4. And it looks like Gonti is going to trade off. So 2 Death Touchers kind of crash into each other and end up in the graveyard as they do.
Okay.
And that's an Awakening. He's going to take out Obnixilis.
A lot of great targets for that card.
Yeah, I was going to say that Bestiary is really annoying, but I guess they both are.
Yeah, I think Dan's trying to like figure out what outs he has right now. He's playing to his outs. I think one of the ways he wins is if he top decks an Archangel Avacyn. And while the bestiary gives him a little more value, the Archangel Avacyn could threaten to end the game in 2 attacks. And he can just hope that Ben doesn't have any other removal spells.
Yeah, it's just tough because Ben's going to gain another big chunk of life from his lifelinker on the ground.
Yeah.
You know, it just throws the math off. Now, of course, Ben has an immediate replacement Gonti. He's drawing a card off of his bestiary, and now rummaging through Dan's list. It's so.
And that's another Obnixilis.
Jeez.
This is just too much value. I just can't handle it, Marshall.
No,
I just can't.
Ben Friedman is just straight up going off here. Man, Dan just used Anguish and Making to kill Obnixilis, and now Ben's just going to cast his own one of Dan's Obnixilis.
And he's also bottoming one of Dan's Fumigates.
What a monster. What a monster. He could just do it now.
Yeah.
It's one way to do it.
It doesn't look like he has any need to cast Transgress the Mind or Verdish Gearhulk out of his hand.
No? Yeah, I like this. And Dan Ward has to just be like, come on, man.
It's like, really?
Guess I'll kill one of your knights. Yeah, this is looking great for Ben Friedman. It already looked good when we came back to the match, and now it just looks fantastic.
Yeah.
By the way, I just noticed that Gifted Aetherborn is also Dan Ward's.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's in the white sleeves.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I guess it would have been kind of strange for Ben to have boarded that in against the control matchup.
Yeah, it does seem a little strange.
Yeah.
And that does it. Dan Ward can do nothing but extend the hand as Ben Friedman. You know, we got to see him play the Lifecrafter's Bestiary early in that game, and man, he rode that thing to victory.
Oh, yeah.
Scry one every turn is a big deal, and then once you start drawing extra cards, forget it.
Yeah, if that card just stays on the board, I'm just going to say for 2 or 3 turns, it's going to be really hard. Unless you can get ahead with the Planeswalkers, and it looks like Dan was unable to do so.
Yeah, it was good stuff there from both of our players. But yeah, Ben Friedman. People are trying to, painful truths each other out of the game. That thing just draws you extra cards, kind of infinite.
Yeah, he showed me the bestiaries in the sideboard, and I was just kind of excited to see how it would actually play out. So
yeah, he certainly found the matchup for it, and it played out beautifully for him. Also, the thing's not legendary, right? Like, can you just pile them up?
Yeah, you can have 2 in play.
Yeah,
and draw all of the cards.
Just draw all the cards. All right, well, that's going to do it for round 6. We'll see you in